United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Guyer.
Here.
Trustee Spurling. Trustee Bauman. Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
Trustee Brzoska.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum this evening. The first item is our public participation. The first one is a proclamation for National Athletic Training Month. So founded in 1998, the Oswego High School Athletic Training Program works to educate, diagnose, and treat and rehabilitate injured athletes. With us tonight are members of their team and students from OATS, also known as the Oswego Athletic Training Students. This program allows students to get hands-on experience working with athletes under the supervision of their certified athletic trainers, Brian Cronin, Vince Rodriguez, and Laura Vaverka. They submitted this proclamation in Montgomery to bring awareness to the athletic trainer's role in providing another level of safety and prevention in professional, collegiate, and high school sports. So with us, I believe, this evening we have Vince Rodriguez. All right, perfect. So we have Laura Vaverka, and then we have Ava McManus. Perfect. Zane Grossman. Perfect. And Abby Husk. Awesome. And then Julia Mathiel. That's okay. All right, so I'll read the proclamation, and then we'll take a picture. Does that work? All right, so the proclamation is for National Athletic Training Month, March of 2024, whereas the Oswego Athletic Training Program was founded in 1998 as an organization committed to the education of its members and the enhancement of the profession of athletic training, creating better health care for the population it serves. And whereas athletic trainers from professional, collegiate, and high school teams, industries, physicians' offices, rehabilitation clinics, and every branch of the United States military work together to promote and practice the profession of athletic training. And whereas athletic trainers have a long history of providing quality health care for athletes and persons engaged in regular physical activity. And whereas athletic trainers are highly skilled healthcare professionals who specialize in immediate, acute, and emergency care, examination, assessment and diagnosis, injury prevention, risk management, therapeutic intervention, and rehabilitation of injury and illness. And whereas the National Athletic Trainers Association represents and supports more than 45,000 members of the athletic training profession, including more than 2,700 athletic trainers in the state of Illinois. And whereas the leading organizations concerned with athletic training and health care have united in a common commitment to raise public awareness of the importance of the profession of athletic training and the role of athletic trainers in the provision of quality health care services. And whereas it is the desire of the Village of Montgomery to promote improved health care for athletes, for all those who engage in physical activity. Now therefore, I, Matt Brawley, Village President of Montgomery, do hereby proclaim the month of March as National Athletic Training Month. Call upon residents of the Village of Montgomery to join me in recognizing athletic trainers for their honorable work in keeping the community healthy. And a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Awesome, go ahead.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Brzoska.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
All right, come on down. How's it going? Thanks for coming.
I printed it, but I forgot to take it off the printer.
You should just have them print one.
Keep up the good work. Enjoy the month. Enjoy the spring.
What were you going to answer? What were you going to say?
All right, the next item for public participation, item B, is the fiscal year 2025 budget public hearing. So I'll open the public hearing on our budget for next fiscal year. Staff have anything to add? All right, we're not taking action on the budget tonight, but this is the public hearing. So if you're here to speak about the budget, now would be your window. If you're here to speak about something else, you can wait. Okay, hearing no one for the budget, I'll close the public hearing, and then I'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody here tonight that wishes to make public comment? Okay. With that, I'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll read the items and entertain a motion for approval. A, minutes of the March 11th Village Board meeting, accounts payable through March of '25, the refuse report for February of '24, ordinance 2068 granting a variance. This is for Blaine's Farm and Fleet. Ordinance 2069 is granting a variance also for Farm and Fleet. Both are second reading. And the last one is ordinance 2070, amending various sections of the UDO.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
That carries 4-0. Thank you. All right, items for separate action. The first one is ordinance 2071, amending various sections of the village's UDO relating to food truck courts. This is second reading. Director Apt.
Yes, after your discussion at the last board meeting, you asked for some things to be revised, specifically removing anything regarding allowing live music and additional sales besides the food by the food trucks. So the ordinance before you has been updated, highlighted what those changes were on the staff report, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Excellent.
I do have a question. So the process, who issues these licenses? Who's responsible for that here at the Village Hall? If someone comes in, they want a new license, who does
There's
that?
no
What
licensing,
position?
there's no licensing for this. This is a special use, so it would go through the same zoning process as Blaine's Farm and Fleet or Gray's Mill or
Okay,
anybody else has done.
So who makes sure that food trucks in town register, that go through the process?
That would be my department.
That's your department?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we don't have any food truck courts operating right now?
No, we do not.
Okay, we have a leftover on Lake Street? There's, in the old Heinz
Yes,
Lumber?
she's in the process of getting a temporary use permit and deciding whether she wants to come in for a permanent license, like the other ones do, like over at Menards and everything.
Okay, so she's operating without a license now?
So she's applying for her temporary use permit,
Okay, so
because she was
that's-
just notified that she needed to do that,
Okay, and that's through,
my department.
yeah, but is that through the single food truck? Or is
Yes.
she doing, okay, so that's not
Well, it's a
part of the thing.
temporary use, because she's not sure if this is something she's gonna do long-term or is just trying out right now, so.
Okay.
She may be coming before you for a permanent one, but for right now, she's applying for the temporary use one.
Okay. I will say this, is I'm really not in favor of food truck courts. The only reason that I'm going to vote for this tonight and vote yes is because they are special use and it's not permitted use. And they have to go through the process, and then we have to have public hearings. And then, people can come in. I really don't want this in any type of residential area because I don't want to affect the residents. That includes down here in the Mill District. Yeah, I just wanted everybody be aware that that's the only reason I'm voting yes for this is because it's not permitted use, it's special use, and they have to go through the process plan and the village board if somebody wants to have a food truck court in town.
Same.
I have a couple things. Trustee Marisak told me just a few minutes ago that there may be some residents here that are against a food truck court. That's correct. I would ask you why you didn't speak up during the public comment period.
I'm sorry, I thought that was for what the agenda that was being spoken about at first.
Okay, and then what we're discussing tonight, just so we're not allowing any food truck court. This is just the ordinance.
Correct.
Putting it into place, and it will still have to go through that process, correct?
Correct, so this is establishing this new use in the ordinance, so once this goes into effect, then anybody that wants to operate a food food truck court would have to apply for that special use and go through the process before they would be able to begin operating.
Right.
So this is the framework that could allow for somebody one day, but it would mean a public hearing. I think is it a public hearing for special use?
Yes.
Public hearing, plan commission, village board.
Yep, and just a reminder, so what you'd be looking at then would be the findings of fact would govern whether or not the permit gets issued or not, I'm sorry, not the permit, but the special use permit.
The normal process, okay. And just to clarify, the residents that are here, you're not against this ordinance, you're against the proposed food truck court at wherever, a specific location, correct?
That's correct, being that we're residences on Montgomery Road here.
Okay.
We're just concerned, you got the mill district and the old mill parking lot there, and then next to it, you've got, all residences, and behind it, you got residences, so right there, you've got something that's gonna be, open till 10 o'clock at night, it's an outdoor venue. When we all moved in here, we had the mill established and it was going, but that was, a bar, a recreational place that you didn't have people outside, just, Alice didn't run it that way, People went out to the car, got in their car, left, and came there, got out of their car, went in the building itself. Now, having something that's gonna be going on, you're gonna have lights and stuff like that. If somebody proposes to do it at that location here, you got residents right next door that, that is residential property, and then carrying down through there. Generators and stuff like that, none of us, we've had a discussion, none of us are opposed to the idea of, when we, the improvements in the park, and it's gonna be nice to have music coming back to the park and things like that. That's an awesome time to bring people in and have things like that going. We've got the Empanada place here in the corner and stuff like that. They used to be open, try to run their business open every day and stuff like that. They didn't have the amount of traffic there for it. Maybe with the improvements in the park and things like that, we can allow established businesses that are here the opportunity to actually flourish a little bit more and bring more in for what's existing and stuff like that. The idea of a food court, that makes sense in certain areas and things like that. We're not opposed to the idea of it, but just where it's at, it doesn't, it creates concerns for us. The proposal for this location right here.
Yeah, I would be interested in hearing what they had to say. I apologize that you weren't aware that the public comment period was when you guys were supposed to speak. But when Marasek had mentioned that to me, I at least wanted to bring it up so that everyone knew that, hey, there are residents here that may not necessarily be against the ordinance, but that are against the specific food truck court that you're talking about. So thank you.
At that time, if somebody came forth and was going to approach and wanted to do that, would the residents, around there be notified of this? And being that this is, special use, it's gonna be affecting people that live there 24/7.
Yes. So as part of the process for special uses, every property owner within 250 feet of the subject property is required to be notified of the hearing so that they have the opportunity to talk with staff and ask any questions, and at the hearing, ask questions and make any concerns known to the commission. And that way the commission can take into consideration the real concerns of the surrounding property owners.
And what the actual situation at that time would be.
Exactly.
Sorry, Matt, I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
that's great.
I would say just let us know would be a good start. Somehow let us know, this first I've heard of it.
Sign will go on whatever the subject property is at the time as well, so the residents within that 250 feet, and then a sign also gets posted, so people driving by who might not be within the 250 feet but are in that general area will have the opportunity as well.
The whole block's closed, so if one of us is notified, we can get that, so.
Awesome, thank you.
It's a beautiful little community we got here, the village.
Agreed. Thank you.
One more question I've got. When we went on the website for the YouTube, to watch the meetings and stuff here, watch the agendas, it's very hard. You can max out the volume on the site, and you can max out the volume on the computer. It's very hard to really hear. We were wondering, or I'm personally wondering if that could be uploaded to where the volume's higher and give the people the opportunity to turn it down instead of trying to max it out and not be able to hear it.
This is not the first time I've
that-
heard
that's
this
happened to me
comment from
too.
somebody
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
it's difficult to hear. We assume it's because we're not talking to our microphones, but I think in general, it's difficult.
If it carries through here and it's being recorded, I believe there's a way to upload it and increase the volume setting.
We'll talk with our IT department, see if we can't get it figured out.
We'd appreciate that.
Of course, thank you.
What about us guys that don't have a computer? How about like a notice in the mail would be fine?
All of our agendas are posted online, and if there is a project that's within 250 feet of you for a food truck court, you will get notified. So you should receive a certified mailing.
And it's also, I think the agenda's posted in the front of the village hall here.
Correct.
Before, what is it, 24, 48 hours before?
48 hours.
40 hours before the meeting, there's a post, the whole agenda's.
I read that, that'll work.
Cool. Any other questions?
No. So move. Is this first reading? No, second reading.
No, second, you're good. Reading. For the motion?
Second.
And a second? Any discussion? All right, go ahead, Debbie.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska?
Yes.
Trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
That carries 4-0, thank you. All right, item B, ordinance 2073, approving the official zoning map for the Village of Montgomery. Waiver of first, pass it down the second.
Yep, we do this every year. So this is our statutory retirement, or retirement requirement, I wish. So every year, we are required to adopt a new zoning map that reflects any zoning changes that happened in town. So we have the table in the staff report that goes through all of the zoning that you approved over the course of the year, and the map has been updated to reflect that. This does have to be adopted by March 31st, so we are asking for waiver of first reading on this.
Deal. Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, call the roll.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska?
Yes.
Trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
That carries 4-0, thanks. All right, ordinance 2074, approving the purchase of real estate and related easements. This is for the Montgomery Overflow Project. Waiver first, pass it down second. Go ahead.
All right, so attached you have an ordinance that authorizes the purchase of real estate for our Montgomery Overflow Project, along with some related easements. The purpose of this project is to improve the drainage and floodplain management within the floodplain area and to create development potential within our TIF number 2. We've got the plat of survey, as well as an easement that's being finalized and will be attached, but you have a draft copy of those as part of your packet. This board has previously approved other purchases. This will be our last purchase. There will only be one more related easement that will come before you, and then we will have everything that we need to be able to move forward with the design and construction of the project. The purchase price is $170,000 plus any associated closing costs for the fees. This does unfortunately bring us a little bit over budget that we had in for the year. But otherwise, this is a project that the staff believes is a good thing to move forward, and so we're asking for your approval of this in order to be able to close.
Is this the parcel that's immediately next to the old Union Hall? The
No.
treed one?
It's the one, it's 2 over. Is that correct, Pete? Yes.
The furthest.
We already purchased the one immediately next to the Union Hall. This is the next one east of that.
Got it. Is there a house on it?
No.
Okay.
Once,
Sorry to tell.
once we have all these parcels, how soon do we begin construction?
So we are intending to start construction of the storm sewer first. That would be fall of this year, August, September. And then we're hoping to start work on the basin in the winter of this year, of '24.
Does that include clear cutting of that whole area?
We won't be necessarily clear cutting the area. We'll remove enough trees to get our storm sewer in. The basin is going to be just south of Orchid, and there's really no trees there to speak of.
Okay.
So, yes, the wooded area is more where the storm sewer will be going in, so
Okay.
we'll be
Yeah.
making.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve?
Go ahead, call the roll.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska?
Yes.
Trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
Carries 4-0. All right, item D is award of a contract to Wax?
Walks.
Wax Water Service, a division of
Xylem.
Xylem. See, I can do every other word in this sentence. In the amount of $27,126 for the fiscal year 2025 annual village-wide leak survey. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
President Brawley. So as we continue to move forward to an alternate water source through Lake Michigan and reducing our water loss below 10%, staff continues to bring forth this item, which is an annual item that we've brought historically to the village. This year, we posted an RFP, received 3 bids through that RFP process, and staff is recommending approval tonight for a Wax Water Service, a Xylem company, in the amount that of $27,126. To note, the budgeted amount is higher. That allows for an additional leak survey to be performed at a later date, typically in the fall, focusing on areas that we feel may be high impacts for water loss, as well as our emergency leak detection process that we use throughout the winter months typically. So that's why there's a discrepancy between the proposed amount and the overall budget. If there's any questions from the board, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
I'm assuming that once we do this leak detection, the percent or number of leaks that we have should be less than what we had 3 or 4 years ago when we did this?
I mean, ideally, that's what, the hope is as we continue to do water main replacement, that we're finding less and less leaks. A lot of our leaks can comprise of a lot of different things. A lot of them are hydrants that are just not seated properly from hydrant flushing where debris gets stuck in the gasket or the boot. So there's different things like that. We find occasionally water service line leaks to either commercial properties or residential properties. So there's a number of different things. It's not always specifically targeted just at water main. So they definitely fluctuate and can go up and down. And there's a lot of different factors, obviously, that play into that. But ideally, as we replace water main and we do these leaks with leak surveys, that's the whole point, is to identify those leaks, get to them sooner so we can cut down on that water loss.
We've used this contractor?
We have not. This will be the first time utilizing this contractor.
We're not replacing the pipe with perforated pipe, are we?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, leak detection is as good as the time that you do it. As soon as you, when I worked for the village, I literally drove down a street one time, and 15 minutes later, I got a call. Can you check for a leak on such and such street? And I go, I just drove down there. There's no leaks there. And they, well, we just got a call. If you can go check it. She said, just started. And I turned around, went back, and there was a leak. So leak detection is only good until you pull away, because they can pop at any time. We purchased in-house leak detection equipment.
We did. We purchased a correlator, correct.
Okay, and everybody's been trained on that?
Not everybody to this far, no.
Is that something in the future you foresee that we can utilize to?
From a staffing perspective, it's difficult to do an entire village leak survey with our existing staff, with the responsibilities we have. One of the things that we try to do is we try to target post-hydrant flushing too, is kind of our critical time period when we like to do this survey. Because again, that's where a lot of our impacts are, is hydrants with debris stuck in them from that flushing process. So we like to get the contractor out immediately after that, whether it's spring or fall. So again, when we get into that, those are our typical heavy times of year, whether we're doing leaf collection or now we're ramping up for grass cutting and all of the different spring services that we provide. So it makes it difficult from a staffing perspective. The critical thing which we purchased that for was more for our emergency leak responses. In the wintertime, when we have frost conditions where we're not able to identify those locations, be able to come in and pinpoint it and be able to excavate on the spot and not have to do, exploratory digging is obviously a huge benefit. But as time goes on and staff grows, it's definitely a possibility.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion, second.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Any further discussion on that one? All right, go ahead.
Okay, trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Brzoska?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Real quick, I just need to go back and Item C, the ordinance approving the purchase of real estate. We need a supermajority of those holding office.
Yeah.
Since we have 2 absent, I need to vote yes on that. So this is me voting yes on that, for the record. All right, moving on to item E is award of a contract to Geneva Construction, the amount of $3.491 million for our 2024 infrastructure road program. Director Wolf.
I'm going to take this one. Thank you.
Sorry, Director Wolf's friend, Mr. Ott.
Thank you, President Browley. We opened up bids on March 4th. We had 4 bidders. Geneva Construction was the low bidder in the amount of $3,491,244.56, which was 4.6% under the engineer's estimate. We are recommending approval of award to Geneva Construction. Happy to answer any questions.
These are pretty tight bids. They're
Very,
pretty
very,
close, which
very
is good.
close.
Yeah.
About, what, $5,000?
Has Geneva done work in the village before?
Yeah, they did last year's project.
No issues?
No.
No wavy pavement?
No.
Okay.
They will have the proper safety and flagging, and
Yes.
I'm looking at you, Mark.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Less badgering?
To approve.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
Trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska?
Yes.
That carries 4-0.
Sorry, I'm not used to going after Dan. This is weird for me.
Thanks, Engineer Ott, appreciate that. All right, so item F tonight is approval of a PSA with EEI in the amount of $249,970 for construction engineering for our 2024 infrastructure road program. Director Wolf.
Thank you, President Browley. So this is obviously the PSA for the previous item for EEI to perform the construction observation throughout the 2024 project in the amount of $249,970. If there's any questions from the board, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
You can't do them all.
Good try.
Go ahead.
Okay. Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska?
Yes.
Trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
Yes.
Carries 4-0. Item G is resolution 2024-007, appointing an authorized agent for the Village of Montgomery salt purchases. Director Wolf.
Thank you, President Browley. So the village utilizes the state bidding process through Central Management Services for our salt procurement each and every year. This year, as part of the procurement process and the bidding process, they're requiring a certification of authorization for a Montgomery staff member to be authorized to put in that bid request. So tonight, staff is requesting that myself and our street superintendent, Sean Murphy, be the 2 authorized people for processing that submittal for the bidding process. So that's the purpose of the resolution before you tonight. The bids are due to CMS by April 7th. So obviously important that we pass this tonight to be able to add that documentation to the bidding process that's required. So if there's any questions from the board, happy to answer them.
I have a few. Are we to the point now where our winters haven't been that bad? Are we to the point where we don't have to order salt for a winter?
So we haven't hit that point where we've done a reduction. So typically in the past, we've ordered around 1,200 tons pretty historically, probably for a good number of years. Last year, we reduced that amount to 900 due to overstock. This year, we're going to bump it down to 800. Again, there's so many variables that go into winter. I mean, while we've had 2 mild winters in a row, certainly we could have another, or we could be overdue and Mother Nature could definitely give us more than we can handle. So that's with what we have on hand. That's what we felt comfortable with. We do have the 80, 120 options. So when we put in that 800-ton order, we can obviously take as much as 80% of that, or we can take as much as 120% of that order. So we do have some flexibility given the conditions and what we see.
The salt that we have currently on hand, is it all under roof?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it age?
No, I mean, typically, anything that gets moisture on it, so that outer kind of shell will get a crust on it, but we're able to break that up easily at the beginning of the year with the loader when you go into the pile. And once you really break that crust, you know, it's perfectly good. There's no additional processes that are required. And again, everything that we have, fortunately for us, is under roof.
Cool.
Salt storage and purchasing's changed over the years. Many years ago, it used to be, you didn't want to have any salt left over at the end of the season, and you order for new. And we had a situation where we had several bad storms in a row and ice storms, and everybody was running out of salt, and you couldn't get salt because the Mississippi was frozen and couldn't get it up here. So, yeah, so it's best now. Everybody kind of changed gears on that, and they like to end the season with all their salt storage sheds full.
So
I'll make a
moved.
motion to approve.
Then I'll second.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a motion in.
Well, I'm sorry.
You got 2 opportunities left, so go ahead.
Well, one, yeah,
Okay,
two.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska.
Yes. That carries 4-0. Thank you. All right, second to last, ordinance 2072, adopting the operating and capital improvement budgets for fiscal year beginning May 1 of 2024, ending April 30th of 2025. This is first reading, so no vote. But Director Maluski, go ahead.
Yep, so state statute just requires that we pass our budget before the beginning of that new fiscal year. So the budget total revenues we have presented is $61,757,016. Total expenditures, $59,493,678. So we did a presentation on those general fund highlights on February 26th. We have the special revenues and the capital budgets were presented at the March 11th meeting. And then tonight, with eager anticipation, we present the enterprise funds. So
Right.
if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Awesome. And then if you don't have questions tonight, but you do have questions before we vote on this, if you could please let staff know before that meeting, because we do need to adopt at one of the 2 meetings in April.
Yes, so
preferably
we
the
have it
first one.
scheduled for second reading at that April 8th meeting, but it does give us one additional meeting if we need to make any kind of accommodations or move some things around. That'll be allowing us that additional meeting at the end of April to pass the budget.
All right. Okay,
Looks good.
thank you.
Great job. Now I'm hanging on the edge of my seat for this presentation.
All right, the last item for first reading is ordinance 2075, amending the village code pertaining to massage establishments, first reading.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So this came to the village's attention when the clerk received an application for a massage license, and in going through the village code, it was discovered that state law has changed since the original ordinance was adopted. So now there are specific preemption on actually licensing the massage therapist by the village, not necessarily the establishments, but the attached ordinance goes through and it takes out all the provisions with regard to the actual therapist licensing. It does keep in all provisions regarding the licensing of the establishments, which also includes building inspections, conducting background checks, and does have a process for having revocation proceedings in case there's a violation of anything within that ordinance or other applicable state law. So I'm happy to take any questions.
So if I understand, our previous ordinance, we were actually issuing the license to Susie Smith?
Correct, it was
The
both.
actual-
It was the therapist and the establishment. So now this would require that they can show that they're licensed by the state of Illinois, but the village isn't actually licensing the individual therapists.
Okay. Have we done that before?
I don't believe so, at least not in 20 years.
Okay.
Let's do it. For it. Okay.
Everyone's looking at me. I'm not
Any
making a
vote-
motion now.
I mean, you
No.
can't make a motion.
Make a motion,
so-
it's first reading.
But we'll give you the opportunity at the last one, item 11, if you want to take that one, down at the bottom.
The adjournment?
That's all you.
Thanks.
All right, we can put that on consent for a future meeting unless somebody objects. All right, so we have items for discussion. Actually, you know what, don't put that on consent, because those
Well-
2 aren't here.
Do we need to discuss this? Because There's 3 options for us, correct?
Well, that was just providing background and speaking with staff, and my understanding is that the police department would like to keep the ordinance as is, just removing the problematic provisions. Of course, you can choose to do nothing, or you could choose to repeal the entire thing. Just because we were bringing it before you, we wanted to give you all options, or you could regulate through zoning. But the recommendation would be to just keep your ordinance as is, just removing the problematic provisions.
Okay.
Any further discussion on it? No. Okay. All right. 2 items for discussion tonight. The first one is a liquor license request for, or from Los Comales at 1587 Douglas Road. You want to come on down, introduce yourself? I've been there twice, and it's fantastic. You want to stand at the microphone so when that gentleman watches online, he can hear you? Yeah, that one right there.
This one right here?
Right?
Is it green?
Yeah, it's a green.
There
All
you
right,
go.
perfect. How you doing?
So I like to come to ask you permits. So I have a 25 years with the business from Los Comales. So I have one in the Aurora, 830 North Fransburg. So we have that location for about like 24 years ago. So we like to move to the village of Montgomery. We start on January 2nd. So it's a small business from there, Mexican food. So everybody invited that they can taste the food in there. They want to go. So my boss and me, I like to ask you if I can get the license for liquor license. I got a patio outside, so it's a nice place in there. And like to share to have like liquor license to make margaritas and a couple beers in there in summer. So that's the question that I have for everybody here.
Okay. Do you have, first of all, I said I've been there and it's great. We will be back. Do you have video gaming at your other locations, or do you want
we
video
not.
gaming here?
It's a small place, so we never have the video game, and it's
Okay.
nothing like that.
That's kind of what I figured. I'm asking that because Trustee Sperling's not here, and she would otherwise ask that question, so.
Oh, okay. No, it's a small business, so it's like for 20 people.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't have any space for video games, nothing like that.
okay. All right.
I'm in support. I mean, he's done exactly what we like. He's come to town, brought his business, opened a restaurant, and is now asking for a liquor license. He's not asking for the liquor license to open his business with gaming. He's established himself as a restaurant, a successful restaurant, so I'm in support.
Cool.
I am as well. I'm assuming this is the liquor license that requires 50% of sales to be by food? Okay.
Yeah, I'm in support of this as well.
Perfect. All right, so everybody's on board. So next step would be to work with staff on all the paperwork and background check and all that, and then we'll enact the ordinance or grant the license at a future meeting.
All right, perfect.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the last one is the fiscal year 2025 budget discussion, enterprise funds. Is this the last segment?
This is the last one. It's so bittersweet.
Isn't it?
I so miss your presentations, they're riveting.
Aren't they?
I just recommend, like, this is 3 of 3.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes,
Very
it
good.
is.
It builds a little anticipation to it. Thanks, Mark.
While she's getting ready, future village board meetings, we'll have the village board meeting on Monday, April 8th at 7 PM to enact our budget. And then our last board meeting of the fiscal year will be Monday, April 22nd. And we will have intergov that night as well, so I don't have to say that after this.
Okay. Yeah. The eco staple? Yes, it's one of Sonia's favorite. I used it tonight. So, as I said, it's kind of bittersweet. So we present our fiscal year 25 final budget. We have the enterprise funds that we're going to go over tonight. We have Again, total recommended budget for fiscal year '25. We see that total of revenues and expenditures, so we're talking about a $59.5 million budget. Enterprise funds make up approximately 41.3% of that. So as we get into our enterprise funds, they perform primarily like a business. So their revenue sources are generally coming from the sale of services and or goods. So the village currently has 3 enterprise funds. We have our water fund, our water improvement fund, and our refuse fund. Water sales are our primary source of revenue for the water fund, obviously. So what residents can anticipate with water sales this year is that, as in prior years, we have a 5.5% increase effective on May 1st. So that's reflected on that June 1st bill. That is status quo for the past couple of years. But this year we are doing and completing a rate study with EEI. So we'll be bringing forth recommendations later this year with looking at the structure of that rate as well. So that's something that's going to be coming forward, something that we're kind of digging into with best practices going forward. The other revenue item that we have in that water fund is that $15 Boulder Hill infrastructure fee. So that's related to water mains that were replaced back in 2013 and to a debt issuance at that point in time. That $15 is set to expire in fiscal year 39, calendar year 38. I believe it's December 1st would be our last payment on those bonds. Our water improvement, and I'm sorry, can't see that. Our water improvement fund, those revenue sources are mainly from those tap-on fees. So different this year from prior years is we also have an issuance of a line of credit that we're going to get into in a little bit. And then we close out with the refuse funds with those pass-through charges that we bill monthly and then pass that charge through to our LRS for their services. So as we can see, water improvement, we have a budget of $12.9 million. Of that $12.9 million, we're currently released an RFP for a line of credit with our local financial institutions. We are working with Spear, with Anthony from Spear, to help analyze that. So we will be coming to the board in the very near future to determine who that who the winning bid would be then for issuing that line of credit. And then with the anticipation that with that line of credit, it gives us just a bit more flexibility than issuing bonds at this point in time. Once we have some of those numbers dialed in with water improvement and the Lake Michigan stuff, next year with fiscal year 26, we'll do a presentation then either looking at the issuance of SRF funds, so those are the state revolving funds, or refinancing the line of credit into general obligation bonds. So trying to just take some time this year to remain adaptable and flexible with how things kind of shake out. And as we have things a little more dialed in on that water project, then we're going to really dial in that funding process too. So part of that long-term funding strategy. So then in water, we see the $6.7 million. Again, that's with a rate increase effective on 5/1. And then we see the $1.6 million rounding out our revenues for enterprise funds for that total of the $21.2 million. So then moving on to the expense side, we see a very large $14 million investment in the water improvement. So we'll get into what makes up that $14 million shortly. We also see that $9 million is going to be for just water operations, and that does include depreciation. So really we're at about $7 million there. And then the 1.6, like I said, it's the pass-through of those charges. So we see the recommended budget of $24.6 million on that. And just to remind residents that the Village of Montgomery, Oswego, and the City of Yorkville are working together to change our water revenue source from those deep aquifers to Lake Michigan. So this is a process that really we've come a long way even at this point, but it'll continue on in those future years. So what we have in store for this year's projects include our transmission line main of about $6.7 million. So that is the IGA that was approved a couple meetings ago, where that is for the Phase 2 engineering for the transmission line. So we've made our first payment, but that's the rest of that. We also see an investment of that $4.4 million for our non-revenue water program, which is designated for that water main replacement throughout the village. So as I said in the previous presentation, a big part of that is going to be the improvements to the Blackberry Heights subdivision. So not only are we seeing the water main replaced, we're also, as on the bottom that you see, we're doing some sanitary improvements as well, in addition to their roads. And again, we've partnered with Aurora Township and Fox Metro to try to minimize the impact on residents in that area. However, it's going to be a tough year for them, but again, we won't be back once all of these projects are done for at least 20 years. So it'll be a really hard time, but it's going to be worth it for them once it's all said and done. They're going to have a complete facelift, and as my kids say, it's a glow up for them. So it's wonderful. And then we also have the continued investment in our existing infrastructure. So we'll see the maintenance of the Fairfield elevated water storage tank. So that's getting that complete facelift and painting and getting that new logo applied. We also have UMI continuing the water meter exchange program. So this is year 4 of 4 with UMI. So they are contracted to change out 900 water meters. So we are moving them back into the Boulder Hill area to finish out and complete that section. So that would then give us the full functionality of the district metering pieces, where we would then compare those district meter outputs to what residents have been billed in that area to determine if there's any additional water loss that we need to account for. Kind of gives us an idea of where to look, right? And then we have some routine well house maintenance, and we see the rehabilitation of well 8. So well 8 was actually scheduled to be rehabbed this year, but we flip-flopped well 8 and well 3 this year. So we see well 8 just getting pushed to next year as we did well 3 in its place. And like I said, we see the improvements to sanitary sewer in Blackberry Heights again. So this is just as a reminder, our water main replacement schedule. What's there highlighted in red is what's going to be replaced for contract year 24, fiscal year 25. So you'll see that we're replacing about 11,000 feet of water main this year. And then you can see where those other highlighted areas are for the future of those water main replacement programs, where we'll be. And then we have the new contract with LRS that takes effect August 1st. So residents will see an increase of that rate. So that rate will be $21.75 monthly. In addition to that new effective rate, although services remain for the most part status quo, we do see that we will have those stickers for organics of $2.50 per sticker throughout the next 7 years for the program. So residents will be able to purchase those stickers at any various locations within the village. And then we also have an enhancement in the program that allows us to move those senior citizens. We currently have 14 on the waiting list. We'll move those onto the senior citizen discount program effective on 8/1. So that gave us some additional spaces for those that are currently waiting, and then we also have some available spots. So as we receive applications from seniors, we'll be sure to move them onto the program as soon as we can. So with that, that is so sadly the end of my presentations, but if residents again want more information, we have it available on the village's website. We also have hard copies of the village fiscal year 25 budget available for review at Village Hall. And I just want to take a moment again to thank staff and the board with all of the support and dedication and the number of hours that staff's poured into this. And as we continue to refine the budget process and align it with the strategic plan, which, by the way, we are working on that strategic plan to bring forward to you in the very, very near future. So I'm excited with combining these two documents and seeing the level of sophistication within the two documents just really bring that vision forward. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I want to just thank you for that opportunity. And with that, I am happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Exceptional budgeting process this year. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Did I hear you say that at the end of this fiscal year, we will be done replacing water meters?
Our contract with UMI will be done. So we had a 4-year contract, so we are entering that final year, but we will not be done with changing out water meters.
So if I can elaborate on that, most of that is due to the product shortages that we saw throughout the last few years with UMI. So the way that the contract was spelled out, it's a year-by-year basis. So the last 2 years, we didn't hit our targeted amounts, so we'll have carryover. So staff will be working on a plan for next year, whether that's through a new contract, either with UMI or another contractor, or potentially gearing up to try to accomplish those in-house. So that's something that we'll be working on coming forward in the FY26 budget year.
How many more do you think after this year, how many more do you think we'll have to do?
We should have in the ballpark of between 3,000 to 4,000 more to change out.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is that we are changing metering systems too as we do those change outs. So right now we're on an AMR system, so that's a radio read where somebody has to go around and drive through the village to collect those reads. So we only get that snapshot from those meters at one point in time. With the AMI system, which is way more sophisticated, it allows us to get kind of those interval reads. So that gives us better ideas if somebody has a leak. They can call us and we can kind of walk them through what's going on. And we can look at that meter and say, you know, you're using water right now. So it allows us to give them more information and kind of stay on top of it from that standpoint.
And we don't have to send staff out for
No.
sales of homes,
No.
for final reads and things like that, because it's
Yep,
all real
yep.
time.
Yeah, so that really has been very streamlined on our end with the AMI system. So yes, before it always required staff to make sure we had our move-in and move-out work orders submitted to Public Works so we can get those final reads for that, you know, closing, and make sure that we have that final bill so that the village can get paid as quickly as possible. So with the AMI system, yeah, that eliminates that truck roll altogether.
Cool. Just one question for everyone. The big picture funding for the Lake Michigan water supply and Boulder Hill stuff, when are we going to talk about that? Later this year? Is that part of after the rate study, or?
It is. It's part of the rate study, and I think a large part of that is going to be the allocations by the communities into that bigger project. So we want to make sure that we're capturing as much information in the new revised rate study as possible. So once we know what those numbers are, then we can kind of figure out what the design of that rate needs to be and then make that recommendation to the board.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything new or unfinished? Okay. Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Brazaska. Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
And we're adjourned. Thank you.